Well, hey folks, Real Honest with Witch and Rental, and here is another Real Honest Rant. The current WWE product, Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. In all seriousness, this actually is a companion piece to the last current WWE product rant that I did back at the end of August, and I figured, okay, I did that because at the time, you know, they were doing the whole push for Evolution, but especially for Crown Jewel and stuff like that, and using a whole bunch of part-timers and doing some storylines that weren't really all that good. And I'm not saying everything's been fixed in the last, 5 months or whatever. There's some good stuff. There's some bad shit. WWE's not going out of business, not anytime like that or whatever. They need to tweak some things to help with these new TV contracts, especially the Fox contract. But they have some good stuff going on, especially with the women and stuff like that. But there's plenty of shit they could be doing otherwise. Now, I don't know if this is going to last as long as the last rant did. That one was about 26 minutes. But this one is going to be kind of like, I'm going to have one other rant I'm going to be doing about secondary titles sometime in the future, probably sometime in February or March. But I will touch on that a little bit here. But I'm going to basically start out with the fact that WWE has too bloated of a roster. It's like WCW in the mid to late 90s. They had so many people under contract that, it was basically just to choke out the competition. That's the reason why WCW had so many guys. At least up until, 99 and stuff like that. I think, it was, mid or late 99 when they released a ton of people. And then there were more people that left. And then they realized, oh, shit, we have 2 hours of Nitro, because they went back to 2 hours in 2000. They have 2 hours of Nitro, 2 hours of Thunder. They have WCW Saturday Night, and I think they kept that going for a little bit. They have WCW Pro. They have a whole bunch of programming they had to take care of, and they had to rely on a whole bunch of people that were greener than goose shit that were out of the power plant, and it ended up being their downfall. And again, I'm not saying WWE is going to have their downfall here, but there are cracks starting to show, and I'll get to where some of the cracks are going to be a little bit later, and where they're going to have to do their best to stop signing so many goddamn people. I get it. They want to get the freshest new toy. They want to get the newest toy. Vince wants to have all these toys in his toy box. Damn it, only I can play with them, pal. That was a terrible Vince impression. But the whole point is, Vince wants to have a whole bunch of people. And Triple H, too. I'm not absolving Triple H of all this. I don't think Triple H is as squeaky clean as some people think he is, even though I think he's done quite a bit of good shit in NXT. I give just as much credit to Regal and various other people in the creative process for coming up with some good shit. Now, let's go with just the bloated roster, though. Let's go with the main roster. There are some people that are not seen on TV for months. Months on end. Shelton Benjamin was just recently in the Men's Rumble, and the last time I saw him on TV, he had a little bit of, a stare down in a brief talk with Mustafa Ali after Mustafa Ali had just made his debut, or just shortly after his debut on SmackDown. Other than that, barely saw the guy. And he was in the Rumble for a little bit. Now, nothing against Shelton Benjamin. I mean, he's in his early 40s. He's still a legit athlete. If you're going to have people sign, the whole point is if you're going to have people sign, actually fucking use them. Now, rotate people in and out, have some people on the house show circuit and this kind of stuff to draw some eyes in there, and rotate people in and out on TV. That's my main issue, is going to the TV product. So, piggybacking off the bloated roster, they have too many people as it is. Across Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, NXT, NXT UK. And just people they have in the Performance Center. And I recently did a countdown about NXT talents that could be released in 2019, and briefly touched on that. The whole point is, with this bloated roster, yes, they have a whole bunch of people, and they can call upon a whole bunch of players, and they can have, hey, look at all the stars we have, and all the stars, and they can say to anybody outside, whether they're going to be possibly signing for AEW, or they're in New Japan, or they're in Ring of Honor, or they're in Impact, or they're in Shine, Shimmer, or Stardom, or, whether they're on just the regular independents and everything, and nothing against regular independents. There's a couple Washington State promotions that I've been going to with the Durbinator, and we've been having a goddamn blast and seeing people that are possibly going to be signed there. Shane Swerve Strickland, he could be signed there. We've seen some other people that, are great legendary talents there, and we're going to see some in the future. But the whole point is on the indies, you still see people cutting their teeth and working hard, and yes, they can see WWE as a way to make money. And WWE is a way to make money. It's a way to make huge money. Because they're paying a whole lot of people to not sign with other companies. But that's what got WCW in trouble. Oh, let's just sign these guys to $150,000, $200,000 a year and not really use them. But just to keep them away from everybody else. That's a bad business model. to try and hurt others, all they're doing is hurting themselves. And they can't hurt themselves because then it's just pissing money out the door. They're not selling out as many shows as they used to. Raw tapings, SmackDown tapings are not selling out as much. There is a SmackDown taping coming up this coming Tuesday that's going to be in Everett, Washington. I'm not going to it. I'm not. This is going to be the first taping, like the first live show that WWE has had in a number of years where I've decided not to go. I've tried to go to one every single year if they've had it. I'm just like, no. I can't see it being worth investing in. It was gonna be like $100 to $120 for a ticket. And I'm including the fees and everything and all that stuff. The processing fees, all that stuff if you buy them online or Ticketmaster or through the venue, the Everett Event Center, whatever it is. The whole, or the event center, insert name of event center, insert name of arena here. The whole point is I didn't see the point in investing $120 roughly per ticket to go when I could spend that much for between two indie shows, and get just as much entertainment out of it. And I'm not saying WWE isn't entertaining. There's plenty of good stuff on it, the commentary notwithstanding. Going back to the bloated roster, they have so many talents that they aren't fucking using. Sanity. Where the fuck is Sanity, Ben? And let's go into tag teams right now. That's another bullet point I have. The tag team divisions in WWE, even in NXT, and NXT to an extent has actually been kind of fine. Undisputed Era were recently, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong were until recently the NXT tag team champions. Now it's the War Raiders, which I have my opinions on them as it is. I think they're a good team, but I don't really find them interesting. Even though they're legit, and even though they are pretty good. But you take a look at that. You take a look at the NXT tag team division, or NXT UK tag team division. You got James Drake and Zach Gibson as the champions. You have Mustache Mountain challenging them. Flash Morgan Webster, Mark Andrews, Amir Jordan, and Kenny Williams. You have a good collection of teams that will get well established. In NXT, they will push a team up to have them face off against champions at a takeover. If they don't win and beat the champions, then they go right back down the card, like Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, even though I think one of them got injured for a bit. I think it was Lorcan that got injured for a bit. But then, the Street Profits, I think, won the Evolve Tag Team Championships a number of months ago. I don't know if they still are. I don't keep up on Evolve. But they have all these talents going everywhere and, doing all this stuff. The whole point is, yeah, they have a working relationship with Evolve and a couple other indie promotions in the U.S. With NXT UK, they have a whole bunch of, promotions and everything and all that kind of stuff. And they're working they're working with a whole bunch, they're co-branding with a whole bunch of others. And I'll get back to the NXT UK thing in a bit. The whole point is that they have so many talents, they're having to send talent out to other shows and other promotions just to get them working this kind of stuff. Because they realize, oh shit, we signed so many damn people, and even though we have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 1 hour of 205 Live, NXT and NXT UK are taped. And sometimes 4 shows at a time, if not 6 shows at a time. And the whole point is, you tape all that stuff, then what are you going to do? Put them on house shows, put them in other stuff? What are you going to do? They're going to have to cut some dead weight on this, and cut some dead weight on this bloated roster. Some people just aren't going to get over. If some people are unhappy, maybe instead of, pushing them or whatever just because they're unhappy, you let some of these people go. Now, I'm not saying let all of them go, but with the tag team division, okay, Roode and Gable are the tag team champions on Raw. And I love Bobby Roode and I love Chad Gable. I couldn't give 2 shits about them as tag team champions. The Raw tag team division is fucking done. The Revival should actually be pushed pretty damn well. And people could say, oh, they were pushed and then they lost. But even though they looked strong in defeat, no, they didn't. They looked like fucking goofs. The B team were tag team champions for a bit. Didn't give 2 shits about that. One of the AOPs is injured. I believe Akam is injured. So Razor might make some appearances as a singles guy or something like that, even though both of them are still, greener than goose shit. And that's the second time I've used that reference. You got other teams on Raw that could be used a little better. One thing that's going to have to happen is they're going to have to put the Undisputed Era on Raw, and they're going to have the Undisputed Era just run roughshod over that. That's what they're going to have done. But even looking at SmackDown, where the fuck is Sandy been? Sandy hasn't been anywhere for a month. A month and a half, something like that. And then you got the same 3 teams. You got the Usos, New Day, and the Bar Wrestling. Usos and New Day and the Bar put on some damn good matches. But the thing is eventually, if you have the same food every single day, if you have the same thing every single day, you're going to get fucking sick of it. And even the colognes. I don't like the Primo or Epico. I have nothing against them as people. The team is fucking dead in the water. But fuck, feature them. Now they put Rusev and Nakamura together because they're two unlikely guys that they're just going to throw together and they turn Rusev heel and stuff like that. So they're probably going to be the ones to beat Shane and Miz for the tag titles. Which, yes, as of recording this video, Shane McMahon and The Miz are the best tag team in the world. And Gallows and Anderson are a team that could be featured as a good force. They've been signed for about 3 goddamn years and have done next to fucking nothing. They were Raw Tag Team Champions for a little bit. The bottom line is even in NXT, their tag team division isn't all that deep. Now, they have some good teams, do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that NXT's tag division is anything like Raw or even SmackDown. SmackDown may have more talented teams on there, but if it's the same 3 damn teams, what the fuck are you going to care about? Okay, it's like Heavy Machinery. Heavy Machinery they got beat. They were in a 4-way elimination match. They did manage to pin the New Day, and they were beat right afterwards. Instead of winning and then maybe losing to Miz and Shane and at least getting a rub on pay-per-view. The focus not being on tag team wrestling and just being treated as an afterthought is bad because in 2017, New Day and Usos were having some banger matches. Yes, it was a little bit exhausting because it was the same damn thing, but still, they were having some banger matches and putting on some of the best stuff where people were tuning the fuck in to see what they could do. Tag team wrestling should be featured as an art in WWE. It's an art. It was an art in WCW. It was an art in WWE a number of years ago. This shirt, by the way, that my sister made, by the way, for me. She bought the shirt and then looked at the logo online and actually painted it. This is actually hand painted by my sister. So, it was a great Christmas gift, by Christmas or birthday, but it was a great gift. The whole point is, back in this day, back in the golden era, and yes, I know, talking about the past or whatever. There were some great tag teams, good and bad, but there were mostly great tag teams. There was a load of tag teams. You did have the U.S. Express, and of course, Barry Windham left pretty quickly, and that kind of stuff. And same with Mike Rotunda. You had Killer Bees, the Hart Foundation, British Bulldogs, until Dynamite hurt his back and everything. You had so many other people. You had so many great teams. Some teams that I know I'm forgetting about. The Rougeaus. The fucking Rougeau brothers were absolutely great. Even in the 90s, you still had LOD that had some good stuff. They bring the Rock and Roll Express in on a Smoky Mountain, match against Heavenly Bodies of Survivor Series 93. But let's see, the Wild Smokes, the Head Shrinkers and the Quebecers it was like just after WrestleMania 10. They had a great match with the Quebecers and won the tag titles. In fact, that might be a retro review I do at some point because I actually liked that episode and liked that match. That was great tag team wrestling. Tag team wrestling even meant a whole lot in later years. Like you had Bulldog and Owen Hart were an incredible tag team. So many great tag teams. The Hardys, Edge and Christian Dudleys. Edge and Mysterio were a pretty good team. Eddie and Chavo. Angle and Benoit, even though that didn't last very long. So many great tag teams. And for a number of years, I mean, it hasn't been like this has just been a recent thing where Vince has not cared about tag team wrestling. Tag team wrestling should have meant a whole lot more than it has. And in 2019, you got Rude and Gable, who are basically dead in the water as champions. Even though they're great athletes, they work well together. Chad is clearly the star of the two. I think Rude is just pretty much pigeonholed as being a veteran to help people, and that's fine. I think he's near 40, and I mean, not that age necessarily is against him, but he's been wrestling for a number of years. He may be comfortable in the spot, and that's totally fine. Chad Gable is clearly the star of the team. Chad Gable should be going on a singles run, but they're not doing that. They're not doing the thing. The Sings. Why the fuck aren't the Sings being used as a goddamn tag team? I know they've been featured as jokes for a while, and featured as people that, Brock Lesnar literally long darted into the ground. Dear God, I am thankful that the Sings are okay, because that was fucking brutal. Thankfully, they're okay, because if they weren't, Lesnar should have had to pay. They should have taken Lesnar's money and paid for their medical bills. Fuck, that was brutal. But the whole thing is the Sings. The Sings could be used as a tag team. If you want to use some 205 Live talent, Drew Gulak and Jack Gallagher, they could be good. You could go with a whole bunch of people and use them properly and everything. Cedric and I guess if you want to put Cedric and Ali as a team or whatever, even though they seem determined to have Ali be a breakout star, and that's good because Ali is really good. There's various people they could put in teams or use properly that are being used as teams on other brands and make tag team wrestling mean something. And yes, you have the NXT UK tag team division that's going pretty well, and you can work with some heel champions a little bit better. NXT has the War Raiders. You can build some other people up and everything and have that kind of stuff happen, even though I think they're going to have a rematch with the Undisputed Era. There's a lot that NXT isn't doing right. There's some stuff they're doing right. And the main roster is just not getting tag team wrestling correct. And that's kind of one of the fucking things that really, really bothers me. And I'm going to get back to NXT here in a bit. But one thing I'm going to start talking about is the pre-shows being too goddamn long. There is no reason besides WrestleMania to do a 2-hour pre-show. Okay. I guess if you want to do a 2-hour pre-show for the Big Four, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series, I guess I get it. It does put more emphasis on the Big Four. For the B pay-per-views, 1-hour pre-shows, that's it. Have 2 matches on the pre-shows to get the crowd fired up. Don't have just 1, have 2. Because we don't need to see endless goddamn recaps because we already know all this shit. If people are just tuning in for the pay-per-views, they're going to get recaps before the fucking matches on the main card anyway. They don't need all those recaps. That's another thing they need to do. Not just on Raw, not just on SmackDown, but on the pay-per-views. Cut some of the recaps. Because the Royal Rumble went on for about 5,000 years. Now, the Royal Rumble, the 2019 Royal Rumble, and thank you guys, by the way. I know this is a cheap plug way, way late in the review, but thank you guys for getting that above 3,500 views as of the recording of this video. I really do appreciate that. Honestly, myself and Turbinator, we appreciate that. It really, really means a lot. The most viewed video on this channel, period. But, getting back to the pre-shows. The pre-shows need to be cut down. The B-level pay-per-views need to be cut down. We don't need 4-hour shows. Here's what they need to do with the pay-per-views. If they want to make them 3.5 hours, okay, that's fine. I know 30 minutes doesn't seem like much, but cutting 30 minutes off will actually help. Have some big rivalries conclude at pay-per-views. Keep some rivalries on TV. Give a reason for the fucking fans to tune in to Raw and SmackDown. Because if they're just going to see the same shit and then realize they could just see it on pay-per-view, they're not going to tune in on TV. Or they're going to watch it on TV and not tune in on the pay-per-view. It's cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's like this one thing that I saw this picture, I guess meme sort of, but it was about like daylight savings time. You had this painting, a beautiful painting of a Native American, and it said, the quote was, only a government would cut the top off of a blanket and sew it on the bottom of a blanket and say it's a longer blanket. Now I know that seems like a bit of a weird analogy, but it's like, okay, you can't give us the same matches on TV and then say, oh, well, you're going to see it on pay-per-view. We already fucking saw it. What the fuck's the point? Why are you doing that? Now, I'm not saying not feature people at all. Don't, do some tag matches, do this kind of stuff where they have brief skirmishes. But save the singles matches and that kind of stuff for pay-per-view, because otherwise, all you're doing is just fucking marginalizing the entire product. Now, yes, they have a lot of television. They have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown that they build their pay-per-views around. TakeOver is done a little bit better. They have 1 hour TV a week. And then they have backstage stuff and this kind of stuff. And they have certain wrestlers that they have on the takeovers, and then they have certain wrestlers that they just use as jobbers on TV. And then they have certain wrestlers where they'll feature them after 3 months and say, oh, fuck, this person's still employed. And that sounds mean. I have nothing against any of those people that are featured necessarily as jobbers. But it's just fucking ridiculous that so many people, so many people are featured on these pay-per-views that something for the Royal Rumble totally makes sense. You got 2 Royal Rumbles. But, let's go to the Royal Rumble as an example. You go to the pre-show. They threw a random match of Gable and Rude versus Razor and Scott Dawson of the Revival. Razor of AOP, Scott Dawson of the Revival. Why? It wasn't even for the tag titles. What the fuck was it? And then Rusev and Nakamura. Nakamura went from being winning the Royal Rumble, the men's Royal Rumble, to to actually winning on the kickoff, but still being on the kickoff. That's pretty fucking ridiculous. All this stuff Just proves, though, they need to have certain rivalries for pay-per-view, certain rivalries for TV, and not make it like it's a demotion if those rivalries are on TV. You get a reason to tune in, the ratings will boost. People are like, hey, we can't see this on pay-per-view. We have to see this on TV. We need to tune in to see what the hell's going to happen. That's really what they need to fucking do. Because honestly, that's one of the things that fucking bothers me, is they don't make TV feel special. Occasionally they do. SmackDown has been leagues better than Raw for a number of months, even though this whole new era is going on. That's something they need to do, though, and shorten the pay-per-views. WrestleMania going on for a number of hours, I totally get. It's their Super Bowl event. They could cut some of the matches down, but it is what it is. The Rumble did not need to be that long. You could have cut out the tag title match. You could have cut some time off of Bryan and Styles. You could have done something like that. I mean, I know it sounds kind of funny to say that, but you could have cut a match out. Because honestly, I mean, Shane and Miz could have won the tag titles on SmackDown. You could have just done it on SmackDown. It probably actually would have been better. And I know, yes, okay, you can make the argument, well, you know, big title changes should be safe for pay-per-view. Again, taking the formula of some matches on pay-per-view, some matches on TV, and you make the TV product a whole lot better. Tell me that isn't a good format. Tell me that isn't a good format. Oh, and I do have a fantasy booking idea for the women, by the way, that I'm going to throw out here really, really quick. I'm going to fantasy book a women's mid-card title. I'm probably going to do this with the Derb, because that was an idea he came up with originally. But I got the inspiration from talking to a friend of mine at Valena, or Valena, at Valena WWE on Twitter. I got the inspiration for that. So I'm like, I'll do that at some point. The whole point is they need to shorten the pre-shows, shorten some of the B-level pay-per-views. They don't need to be 4 hours. Make them 3.5 at the most. But not everybody needs to be on these shows. Have the important people on there, but have some important rivalries on TV. Then you make everything matter, and people could be like, okay, the ratings will tick up a bit. And for the love of God, cut out the fucking 20-minute promos. Cut out the fucking 20-minute promos. Cut out all the recaps. We don't have ADD. And if you're worried that people are just tuning in now, you're not making your TV destination. Oh, here's what you missed. And you recap it, and it's recapped to something that's shit. Like the Lashley sisters thing. And Lashley beating up 3 men dressed in drag. I know that was last year, and I know that some people found it entertaining. That's fine, whatever. I'm not gonna, knock you guys. But it was shit to me. And to quite a few people. And now we get to marginalizing secondary titles. This is just going to be briefly touched on here, but the Intercontinental title right now doesn't feel important. And nothing against Lashley. But let's take a look at it. Okay, you had Rollins win the title at Mania. And then he lost it on a Raw to Ziggler. And feuded with Ziggler for a bit, and then eventually won it back. And then lost it to Dean Ambrose at TLC. And then Dean Ambrose lost it like a month later to Lashley. And nothing against Lashley. I think Lashley actually could be good with the championship, but he's had it for a couple weeks now, a few weeks, and it hadn't felt important. Maybe he's going to be feuding with Balor. Who knows? The U.S. title has meant absolutely nothing for years. I can't really name the last time it felt that important. I mean, Owens and Styles had a good feud for it, but then they passed it to Baron Corbin. I had to be reminded of that on a video last year, because I forgot that Corbin was U.S. champion. Bobby Roode won it. That didn't work. And then Orton won it. And then Orton, won it at Mania. And then that didn't go anywhere. It just... The whole point is that the U.S. title has meant absolutely nothing. And then Jeff Hardy won it. And then Nakamura won it. And they did nothing with Nakamura for months and months and months and months. And then Rusev won it. And now Nakamura won it back. And then Nakamura lost it 2 days later. And even now the women's titles are feeling a little more important. But yeah, the IC title is in a better place than the US title. The US title is dead in the fucking water. But even taking a look at, the North American title and the 2 title changes that they've done. And that kind of stuff. Like, you had Adam Cole win it, and then you had Ricochet win it like 4 months later. It is what it is and everything. And there are NXT spoilers floating around that I know that I'm not going to say anything about. I mean, I just want to touch on this really quickly. Please do not post any NXT spoilers in the comments. Please don't. Just don't. Because there are certain people I know that don't like spoilers. I found out about them. It is what it is. I mean, I don't necessarily care. But please don't post them in the comments. But even the North American title right now, I mean, like, you have to give people at least a number of months run, but that's the secondary title I'm kind of worried about. But also the women's tag team titles, the impending women's tag team titles. I don't know how well that's going to work. We'll see. I know it sounds like I'm poo-pooing everything. I'm not. I just want things to be better. That's really what I want. And now we're going to get back to the NXT brand, and brand specifically. NXT and NXT UK. They are overextending themselves. I'm just going to say it. The Performance Center apparently is at max capacity, so they had to release some people. That's because they need to stop signing every single fucking indie star and realize that, hey, we need to focus on some homegrown talent instead of people that have been people maybe that have a couple years of indie experience, but people we can basically train from scratch. I know that's a deal to the Performance Center. I know that's the point of it. I know that that's what they're supposed to do. And I'm not saying that some of these indie talents should not be able to come to WWE. Far from it. Everybody should be able to pursue their goddamn dream, no matter who the fuck it is. But don't tell me that them signing every single indie star is good for the homegrown people that they're trying to build. It's taking a spot from people that they could grow from scratch. So many people, and I mean, I said, again, on that countdown, that 10 NXT talents could be released in 2019 countdown, that these are people that are kind of the victims of, them signing so many indie stars. And that's totally fine. Yes, they are established names and everything. It gets more to the brand. NXT is something where they are going to have problems sustaining it. To me, TakeOver Phoenix started to show some cracks. The women's title match, it was what it was. It wasn't all that great. And maybe it's just because of the high standards of NXT takeovers. But then you take a look at, the main event. Aleister Black versus Tommaso Ciampa. Very good NXT title match. Knew automatically what was going to happen. And it's what should have happened. It was a good match, but it was almost kind of like the Kevin Owens Finn Balor match at the end of TakeOver Brooklyn, where it was good, but maybe it didn't live up to expectations. Maybe people were just blown up because of the previous match. We'll see, because that's all up for debate. But Gargano and Ricochet was the main event. War Raiders versus O'Reilly and Strong was a good match. I don't think it was a great match. That's my personal opinion. And then you have Riddle and Ono in a match that went on way, way too long. Because Riddle should have been able to wipe the floor with Ono. There's nothing against Cassius Ono. But he just isn't really worth investing in anymore. Sorry, he's just not. But NXT is expanding it's expanded to the point where, okay, now even their TV has some cracks in it. Their tag division, as I talked about, has some stuff here and there. Okay, they push a team up. They face the champions. They lose. They go right back down. Okay, they don't do the rematch stuff all that up, and they do it sometimes. Sometimes they overdo it, like with Samoa Joe and Finn Balor, like that kind of stuff. That was a little bit weird. They go through state of flux, a state of flux. They go through, mountains and valleys and go on a pendulum and stuff like that, and it swings to the bad side and it swings to the good side. And the reason is they'll do some call-ups and then they got to reload. I'm just going to say right now, the women's division has not been all that good in NXT. Not for a lack of trying, not that the women in there aren't really talented, but the women's division has essentially been trying to rebuild from Asuka being champion at, up to TakeOver Brooklyn 3. Well, just after, because she had an injury and then had to relinquish the title. Ember Moon won the title, and Shayna Baszler won the title. Ember Moon, won the title or whatever, got handed to it by Asuka. Thanks, you couldn't beat me, but here's your title. See ya, I'll see you on the main roster. And then, you had, let's see, you had, God, what else do you have? You had Shayna Baszler beat her like 5 months later. Yeah, about 4.5, 5 months later. And then you had Kairi Sane beat her at TakeOver Brooklyn 4, and then Shayna beat her at Evolution. And then the whole thing with Bianca. And I will be doing a match listing at some point of every single women's takeover match, main card, by the way, ranked from worst to best. Mainly because the reason I'm going to be doing that one is because after the not so good, Shayna Baszler Bianca Belair match, I figured why not do that. But the whole point of it is NXT has expanded so damn fast and so damn much and has become WWE's own indie fed. It is going to be something where they're going to have to take a look and realize, maybe we need to stop signing every single indie star, or otherwise all we're doing is poaching from people, other ones that maybe stars of the future we are going to let get away, and then they're going to go out and realize that they can get over somewhere else. Because there are some people in the Performance Center, I guarantee you, that are fucking pissed that probably may end up wanting to give their notice and maybe take a chance on New Japan or Ring of Honor or, you know, especially if they're women, they may want to take a chance on AEW, since AEW seems to be spending some good money. And I know, again, it sounds like I'm shitting on WWE. I'm not shitting on everything. They can get better. It is not something that's going to happen overnight. But these are things that they could have fixed long before that they haven't. And as for NXT UK, I worry that's not going to be sustainable. I mean, I hope it is, because I like quite a few of the talents. The women's division is outshining the men's division because the women are super hungry and working really, really damn hard. Rhea Ripley now is back in NXT and is somebody that they could push for a good 15 goddamn years at least, because she's so young. She's 22, going to be 23 this year. She is a huge star. Toni Storm is a huge star. Ginny is somebody that I think with more time being featured on TV can do well. I know some people don't like Isla Dawn. I think Isla Dawn has something. She needs to get better also. But they have a good crop of women that they've been using that could work really, really well. The men's, they got Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, Trent Seven. They got a few others. They do have Walter. And Walter is legit. I've seen him live. That fucker is legit and hits like a goddamn tank. Those chops live, it literally sounds like a goddamn rifle shot. I'm not kidding. But NXT UK, I even wonder if it's going to be sustainable. Because how many takeovers are they going to have a year? Are they going to have 4? Are you going to get to where you have 4 NXT UK takeovers, 5 NXT takeovers, and then sometimes almost 2 pay-per-views in a month's time for WWE? That's too much stuff. They need to pull back on some of this stuff and realize they make the TV important, the big events will seem important, and then they can do that kind of stuff. So this rant has gone on long enough. Those are my thoughts on the current WWE product. Now, again, not shitting on everything. There is plenty of good stuff that WWE could be doing. But I want to know your thoughts. What do you think could be done for all this stuff? Please let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I will see you soon.